Okay, we're ready to start. Everyone have a seat, please. Okay, we have Jen from the Duval County Tanks program. Of course, they do USTs and ASTs. And she's going to talk just in general about compliance and more or less what to expect from the county inspector when they come around to your facility. I'll preface this with a little bit of a strategic sort of perspective. The state of Florida contracts its compliance verification program to county governments. It's like outsourcing to government. It actually works pretty well because DEP sort of treats the counties as contractors. And they have a task assignment every year. And they have deliverables. If the county is late on its deliverables, the DEP district office can actually withhold paying the invoice. If the county does poor work, they can fire the county. When I was a state regulator again 3 or 4 years ago, I actually fired 5 counties over time for poor performance. And it makes sense because the taxpayers deserve it. I mean, they deserve a quality program. And DEP can also deal with individual inspectors that do not, let's say, who abuse their authority or do things that are wrong. On several occasions with DEP, we actually went into a particular county where a county inspector was doing things they should not have been doing, and just said that the DEP is not going to pay for this person after today. You don't care what union they belong to or career service protection they have. DEP is not paying for this person, you sort it out. I just wanted to let you all know that that those safeguards are there for you as tank owners. On the other hand, Florida's county inspection program is probably one of the best in the country. And most of the inspectors do very good, high-quality work. And the only problem lately is, of course, with the budget cuts, they haven't been able to, let's say, necessarily receive the same level of training they've had in the past. But they're getting a lot of their training in-house. So this year there was a budget cut. Florida, like a lot of states, is encountering a lot of problems with their budgets. Florida has a requirement for a balanced budget. And therefore, out of the trust fund of $10 million that the state of Florida compliance program used to receive, this year they only received about $7 million. And so the task assignments just went up this next year. The counties basically have a 30% cut across the board. And some counties, I mean, hopefully the counties will all be able to maintain the same level of service. Some counties may choose to opt out. But I think if that's the case, adjacent counties will choose to compete for that available money, and then you'll have an economy of scale sort of thing, where in the past there might have been one county inspector being able to do an entire county, and now you might have one county inspector doing even 2 counties, or 2 doing 4, whatever. There's already that in place. There's multi-county contracts. I think there's as many as 5 or 6 counties that have clustered together, and not even adjacent, to do compliance inspections. So I think we'll see some more of that. And also, instead of doing inspections annually, the task assignment calls for a 0.6, which is basically, instead of 100%, you're looking at inspections every year to a year and a half now, maybe every 2 years. And so you won't see them as frequent, but you're still going to see them. And the rules are still on the books. So you have to comply. And so don't be complacent and think that just because the county's not out there every year, used to be, they would typically do it every August, every September, whenever you're scheduled, they keep to that schedule. That's going to change, so, but don't get complacent with it. Again, she'll tell you all about this, and so I'll let her. Okay, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Oh, good afternoon. Okay. As Marshall said, my name is Jean Richards. I'm with the City of Jacksonville Storage Tank Activity. I took over the position from Tom Griffin, which I think many of you know. He had the program for 10 years. Tom is still with the city. He went to the air division, and now he's doing asbestos, which is what he started with before storage tanks, so he's pretty happy. I've been with the program for about 8 months. My background was I was with the hazardous waste activity with the city for 9 years. So I have a lot of experience with hazardous waste, the small quantity generator program, but not with tanks. One of the big similarities, though, is that they both have a lot of federal and state regulations to follow. So you have to be able to read, interpret, and implement those regulations. If I don't have an answer, I know where to find it. It may take me a little while, but I know I can find it. If I can't find an answer that I'm happy with, I refer to DEP, and I get consultation from them. I'm going to do the same thing today. If I have any questions that come up that I'm not comfortable with answering, then David, is he still here?
He left.
Okay. He's going to help field some of the questions. Okay, what I'm going to do first is give you a little bit of the guidelines of when we do a county inspection. And keep in mind that these are for your annual compliance inspection. We also do installation and closure inspections, but those are a little bit different in that they are initiated by the facility. Depending on the type of activity that's being done, you're required to give a 30, 10, or 48-hour, or a combination of them, notice to the county prior to starting your activities. That way we can have an inspector out there to do an inspection when you do the activities and to follow through. A lot of times the closures or installations will be more than one inspection. For your annual compliance inspection, there are certain responsibilities that the inspector has prior to the inspection. First, they need to call the facility to set up the inspection. Set up a time that's best for you. During that time, they should request that you have all your records for review. Now, they will try and schedule these inspections at least 5 days out. The reason for that is we are required to give you 5 days notice to produce your records. So if the inspection is at least 5 days out, you should have your records on hand to be in compliance. They will also request that there's a representative on site during the inspection that can pull lids, open spill buckets, and do any testing that's necessary. And once the inspection is scheduled, it's up to the inspector to be familiar with the facility. Now, you may have the same inspector year after year, but things change. That inspector needs to go back, look at last year's annual inspection, see what type of facility, what type of tanks, the size of your tanks, what they contain, get completely familiar. They also need to look and see were there any closure or installation activities in between. Is there new equipment out there? Did you have some tanks pulled? They have to keep an equipment list for each of the facilities. This needs to be updated. It needs to be current. It should be updated each time we do an inspection so that when they go to your facility, they know exactly what they're looking at. Now, the facility has their responsibilities too, and the first is to have your records, have them in order, have all of them, so that you will be in compliance. And you have another option with this that some facilities use, and this is usually the, like the big gas store chains that have maybe 50 facilities or so that have one contact person. That contact person supplies all the documentation for each of those facilities. So instead of getting that documentation at each of the facilities when they go with the inspector, the contact will either provide it ahead of time electronically to the inspection, or they'll have it in one place where the inspector can go, spend a day, two, whatever it takes, and review all those records for each of those facilities prior to doing the inspections. It's also up to the facility to have someone that can pull the lids, open the tanks, or the dispensers, and the spill buckets. This could be cited as a violation if the inspector does not have access to inspect these components. And lastly, have someone know where the ATG is located and how to test it if necessary. This also could end up being a violation if it can't be done. Now, there's different aspects to the inspection. The first is the physical inspection. This is the walkthrough that the inspector does. They're going to visibly inspect any equipment that is visible. And while doing this, they're going to ensure that it's functioning properly and that it's in good condition. They'll also look for signs of any discharge. And while they're doing this, if they see anything that's a violation, they'll take photographs to document it. Most of the inspectors, when they do their inspection, you'll see they're walking around with their little tough books. They have all the data in there on that facility. So what they're going to do is have you look at that data, verify that the tank owner, facility owner, property owner, tank operator, and account owner are all correct. That is all information that we have in the database, and it should be updated at least annually. This is how you get your bill for your placard, your registration each year. This is DEP's source of information. If there's a violation, we know who owns the property, who owns the tank, who's responsible. If that information is not correct, the inspector will work with the representative to fill out an updated notification and make sure that it gets filed with Tallahassee to update that information